Hey yogis, Leah B here, and welcome to this awesome badass yin workshop where we are going to work on snail pose, and then we're gonna practice a nature-inspired yin flow that snail pose is the star of. So first of all, what's snail pose, you ask? Snail pose is just like plow pose, but it's more yin. It is actually more of a rounded spine version of plow pose. So let's talk about it for a minute. I've got my bolster here. I'm going to put my bolster just at the back of my mat for my feet. This is something that you can do for your feet if you find that when you have your feet over your head and they don't quite reach the floor, this will help. So just sitting up on your mat, basically you want your feet at the end of the mat and you're going to lay all the way down on your mat. Bring the soles of the feet to the floor, knees pointing up. And then from here, we're just going to bring the knees into the chest. And it's almost as if you're going to come up into a shoulder stand. So you're using the hands to roll your knees in toward your chest and walking your hands up your back. So your knees are coming in toward your face, and you can straighten your legs here and use your bolster to catch your feet. If the bolster is not needed, then your feet just come right to the floor. You can have your hands on your back for support. And I really want you to focus on rounding into your lower back here. Your legs do not need to be stick straight because this is yin. I want you relaxed. So your knees can be soft. Your hands can be in your lower back. You can make it even a little deeper by bending into your knees. This comes into that like deaf man version. But in yin, this is still snail. And in today's class, I'm going to straighten my legs again for a second. We're going to work into a variation where there's a twist involved. So you can do this with your knees bent or your legs straight. If you want to do it with your legs straight, you're just going to walk your feet over to the right just a little bit so that you have your feet, your shoulders are still both evenly on the floor, your hands are supporting your lower back, and your legs are going over to the right. Now feel free to bend into your knees and allow your knees to fall toward your right ear here. They can be hovering. It's a little bit of a twist. It's super awkward, especially when I'm trying to talk in this position. I'm going to go back up, even it out onto the other side. And that is our little snail twist. So now to come out of this, I bend my knees and I slowly roll down with one vertebra at a time coming down onto the mat. That's your snail. So to modify this pose, you can try just coming up slightly so your feet are hovering. And that's okay too. We're really getting into the spine, and really you want your neck in this pose too. So tucking your chin. Try not to look around when you're in this pose. But really, like, if nothing is working and it doesn't feel right, then this is more of a caterpillar day for you. You will do a caterpillar pose, which is in our flow. So you'll just get to have double caterpillar action. So with that said, we're going to start with butterfly pose in our nice nature flow. We're starting with the butterfly. So grab a blanket to sit on. And lift your hips up just a little bit off of the floor. So there's that lift. I'm also going to get a timer going here. Bring the soles of your feet together. Bring your heels a little bit further away from the groin and allow your knees to fall open to the sides. And for the sake of this pose, prop yourself up. So if you've got scarves or a blanket or blocks or anything to wedge under your knees so you're not like unstable, do so, because we're going to do some neck rolls. Okay, so we're going to work on neck rolls. So that's why I don't want you to feel like you are a little bit unstable in this pose. You are in butterfly, and we're just going to bring our right ear to our right shoulder. And as you do that, drop your left shoulder down. Now start to look down towards your right chest and then your left chest, and then bring your left ear to your right shoulder. Drop your right shoulder down. Now start to look down toward your left shoulder. Follow your gaze down to the center of your chest, and then back up to your right shoulder, right ear over to right shoulder. Drop your left shoulder down. And then we're going to just continue to do that. Look down all the way to the center of your chest, and then back up, and then roll all the way so your left ear leans towards your left shoulder. And come back down. And right ear to right shoulder. And just keep going. And really focus on dropping the opposite shoulder that you're bringing your ear to so that you get that little extra length. Okay. Your neck is pretty vulnerable in a snail pose, so that's why it's important to just give it a little bit of mobility. Make sure it's alive and awake for your practice. Okay, and we'll just come into our butterfly pose, so feel free to keep your blocks handy. Inhale, lengthen your spine. Hold on to your thighs or your shins, and exhale, hinge with your heart forward with a long spine. Once you can't go anymore, round into it. We're just going to stay in butterfly for a few breaths. Really focus on tucking your chin into your chest in this pose and rounding into your spine. And send your breath into your hips. One more breath. And let it go. And then your next inhale, come up. And we'll move those blocks out of the way. We're going to come into caterpillar pose next. So bring your blanket with you to the back of your mat so that you can sit up on it. And if you have your bolster or another folded up blanket or a cushion, something for underneath your knees, it's so nice to have bent knees in caterpillar pose, especially when you're doing yin. So sitting up on your blanket so that your tailbone and pelvis are tilting down toward the floor, and extend your legs out nice and long on your mat. If you don't have a bolster, I still highly suggest you bend your knees a little bit and then have something underneath them for support. I like to press my heels away and find length into the backs of my legs before softening into my feet, letting everything go. As you inhale, lengthen up through your heart, and exhale, lead with your heart forward. Think about your belly coming to your thighs, not your chest coming down, for as far as you can go. And once you find that you can stop, then it's okay to round into your spine and just soften. I'm going to stay here for 3 minutes. And again, in this pose, focus on tucking your chin. And with every inhale, send the breath into each vertebrae and separate them with your breath. And just notice what kind of thoughts are passing through your mind. And let yourself just be present with what's happening right now in your body and in your mind. And really just check in and notice where you are feeling sensations in this pose. It could be different for everyone. For me, I notice this in my hips a lot right now. And that's because I have very tight hip flexors. But some will feel it in their back. Some of them the legs. It's just going to be different for all of us. And just notice with every slow, steady breath, how much more you can soften and let go and melt into the pose. And your nervous system calms down when you tell it that you are safe with your breath. We're coming into our final minute here. Try to exaggerate your breath just a little bit so that you're getting a little bit more expansion with every inhale, and extend and lengthen the exhale so that you're just taking a little bit more time to breathe out. I actually find it really fun and challenging at the same time to see how long I can make my inhale, and then again, see if my exhale can be even longer. I also even like to experiment with holding my breath at the top before the exhale, just to see how many breaths I can do in a minute and see if I can like bring that down to a very small amount. We'll take one more deep breath here. And then let it go. On your next inhale, slowly come up. Take your time. And then when you feel ready, remove the bolster. And if you know you're going to need your bolster for the snail pose, then put it behind you. And if not, then put it aside. We're going to come into snail pose now. Feel free to keep a blanket for under your head. Just don't make it too cushioned because your chin is going to be tucked here. So you want to make sure that your head isn't elevated too much. So getting set up for your snail, lay all the way down on the mat. Don't get too comfy. Bend into your knees, bring the soles of the feet to the floor, knees to the sky. I'm just going to get my timer set up and we're going to start to hug your knees into your chest. And then start to walk your hands up your glutes and then up your back, bringing your legs all the way over your head. Feet come to the floor behind you, or they just hover in the sky if need be. You can use that bolster or not. It's up to you. You can bend your knees, really round into your spine. One knee on either side of the head or one leg on either side of the head, whatever works. But we're going to transition from side to side and then back to center again. So right now we're just in the center and we're enjoying every breath. In yin, you are trying to be as soft as you can. So just notice where you're tense and see what you can let go of. And from here, we're going to come to the right side. So walk your feet over to the right as far as you feel they can go without feeling like the right shoulder is doing too much. You want to try to keep your shoulders as even as possible, and then maybe bending your knees over toward the right side of your head. I bet you haven't been in this position in a while. Not something we do very often. So be aware of what it feels like in your body. How do you feel this pose? Where is the discomfort? Where is the tension? Notice how challenging it is to breathe in this position. Okay, start to straighten your legs if you can, and we're going to walk all the way up to center and then over to the left as far as feels comfortable before it feels like you're going to tip over, and then bending into those knees to the left side of the head if it feels okay. Try to soften. And just notice the breath. For me, it is unsteady, a little bit shaky, a little unsure, because we're in a very vulnerable position. So just be aware that you need to still breathe and just keep breathing. Okay, and start to straighten the legs, walk your feet back to center. And we're just going to stay here for 10 seconds. Soften once again. Okay, slowly start to roll your spine down. Bring your feet, you can bend your knees first, whatever feels good. It's really just like one vertebra at a time. You come back down. Hug your knees into your chest. Bring your heels towards your glutes. Take your knees nice and wide. And you can stay right here or take it up into a dead bug or a happy baby pose. And happy baby, you want to stack your ankles over your knees. And your knees are just falling down on either side of your body. The arms are just weighing the legs down. And start to bend into your knees. Bring your heels towards your glutes. Hug your knees into your chest. Inhale, bring your forehead to your knees. Give yourself a squeeze. And exhale, roll to one side. We're going to come into one final resting pose, and that is supported fish. So a bolster is great. I'm going to use a bolster today. You can also use 2 blocks. Set yourself up so that you've got one supporting your rib cage, one supporting the back of the head. You can play around with the heights. I prefer this usually on blocks because I find I can get a little bit more opening, but I also recognize when I need rest. And today I would much prefer to do this on a bolster. And to do that, it's simple. You just sit on your mat, slide the bolster all the way up against your sacrum, and then lay down on it. And that's it. So just allow yourself to melt over top of your bolster or your blocks or a rolled up blanket. Maybe you've just rolled something up to lift up your rib cage a little bit to get that opening into the chest. And just close your eyes now. Breathe into your heart. You just spent some time tucking your chin and rounding into your spine. So let's counter that a little bit with a supported fish. And just use these last few moments here to breathe fully and completely and with full intention and awareness of the present moment. And extend your right arm out to the side and a little bit above you, kind of like diagonally on an angle. Bend into your knees, bring your feet to the floor and roll to the right. In a fetal pose, moving your props out of the way. Press yourself up to seated. Face the front of the mat. Sit up nice and tall. And if it feels good for you, bring your hands to your heart center. And we'll close our practice here. Let's close our practice here with gratitude. I'm just grateful to be able to share yoga with you. I'm grateful that you're here. And I'm grateful that my body is able to do any of this, even like one of them. I'm so grateful. So let's just remember that we get to do this stuff. We get to do snail pose and get in the most awkward position ever and breathe there because we are able to. Like, let's just have gratitude for that. Namaste.
Hey Yogi, Leah B here. If you enjoyed this class, why not catch the next one live? I host free 15-minute Yoga for Active Bodies classes every week. All you have to do is head over to leahyogachick.com and register, and I'll send you the Zoom link. See you there.